The future is bleak. Hello. This video is not supposed to be fear-mongering. It is not supposed to be something to induce panic. It is not something that is supposed to make you fear or anything along those lines. Everything that I am saying in this video is thoroughly researched. I am saying it of my own opinion, and it is not something that I am spouting off someone else saying, though I have heard a lot of what other people say. For those of you who don't know, the reason why I'm saying that is because of a lot of things that have happened within the past week here in the United States of America, and it affects everything. It does. A lot of times what happens in the U.S. typically just affects the U.S., whether that be legislation or so on, affects state by state, and people person by person and community by community. But what has happened in the past week has and is going to affect everyone. It is going to affect the entire world. So this video is going to be a recap of everything that has happened. It is going to be in a few parts. It's going to be about Chevron. It is going to be the presidential pardon, and then it is also going to be about the presidential debate that happened, and there will also be some also general just thoughts and feelings overall about what has happened. Now, this is not supposed to be a news information thing. This is just me discussing what has happened. So if I get anything wrong or if I don't mention context, I am hoping that you already know context. And I beg that you have an open mind whenever I say this, because I don't want people to come into this comments that are opposed to this or are on the opposite side or so on and so forth, that just come in and basically just make fun or whatever, whatever the fuck people do whenever someone disagrees with them. So I do ask that you be courteous and so on, at least be open to conversation. I will be glad to have conversation in the comments down below, unless I can see that it's disingenuous or bad faith or anything like that, or being like, oh, well, what about this, or what about that? I'm just going to ignore it. But if you're genuinely curious, I will try and explain as much as possible. But yeah, let's get into it. The first part is going to be about the presidential debate. This is the first thing that really kick-started everything. The presidential debate happened, how many days ago was it? I think it was like 4 or 5 days ago now at this point, and it sucked. I have seen 3 presidential debates in my lifetime. I remember whenever Obama versus Mitt Romney happened, but I didn't really watch it because I was really young, and I've obviously seen clips of it now spreading around because of how bad and how much of a shit show it was between Biden and Trump in the past few days. One, Biden was just all over the place, stammering and, struggling just to speak. And honestly, I feel that this is just a result of what happened back when he got COVID, and this is just a repercussion of what happened there, and obviously with age, because if you've seen anything within even the past year before he got COVID, he has been, he's been very able to talk and so on. And I want to start by saying this before anyone comes in my comment section saying that I'm a Biden supporter. I'm not. I thoroughly dislike Biden, and I hope both of these candidates end up burning in hell. But regardless, I have to talk about both of them. Biden was not able to really talk about any issues properly, and anything that Trump brought up was basically just ramblings and talking points that he's already talked about before, just regardless of if it was on the docket or not. They talked about child education for 22 seconds. I remember that was a thing that was brought up. And they talked about golf for 35. Nearly double the time was spent on fucking golf because they couldn't come to it. These are both geriatric old motherfuckers that just can't really get a sense of anything. Biden brought up the fact that Trump was a convicted felon, and fucking Trump nodded his head and confirmed it. He was like, And then, I mean, which is true, but that's not a very good look for you. Um, and then, honestly, he also just didn't even acknowledge the other stuff that was said. Um, and the entire thing was just a shit show. And what really makes me worry about this, and this is what's going to go into the second half of this section, is how worried I am about this next election. Both of these candidates suck. It doesn't matter who you vote for in this case. And I want to get into something a lot of people have problems for. A lot of people are like, well, you have to vote Biden because, Project 2025. What about Project 2025? And I want to get into that. Project 2025 is just it is a piece of the larger puzzle. It is a ghostly piece of the larger puzzle. It is not something that is on the official Republican doctrine or docket or so on. That's why you never hear Republicans in the Congress and so on talk about Project 2025, because it is not policy. It is not something that is actually on the table for happening. It is just a possibility. It is made by something called the Heritage Foundation, which has been around since Reagan, and Reagan really liked the Heritage Foundation. And for those of you who don't know, the Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank. That is what they are. They make and they come up with and discuss conservative ideology and ideas and present them to different congressmen and so on to be put forth so that their agendas can be put forth into legislation. And Reagan really liked them. He really enjoyed their stuff so much so that the pamphlets, something called Model Leader or whatever, was passed around his entire cabinet. So this is not a new thing. Whether Trump gets elected or Project 2025 doesn't happen or not, the Heritage Foundation will continue to exist. It does not matter if a Democrat, third party, or Republican comes into office. And I will not say that. I remember I made a tweet the other day that was talking about how 2025 will just happen anyway. No, it won't happen. I want to expound upon that. It won't happen if a Democrat is elected, but what will happen is that the ideas presented in it are not stopped from being a possibility. If you actually look at what Project 2025 actually talks about, there's stuff about like reproductive health care. One of them, some people are like, oh, duh, that's bad or whatever, but it comes down to like unconstitutionalism and so on and so forth, like banning queer media. And there's something about pornography, which I thought was really weird that they tied those two together, because queer and pornography aren't while yes they can be both expressions of oneself, they do not have to be tied together. They are not fundamentally together. And then there was also other things like replacing cabinets and officials with like loyalists and so on. Now that kind of stuff with loyalists obviously won't happen under a Democratic thing, because most of them are just going to be elected anyway. They might lean towards one way or another, but they won't be like diehard loyalists like, yeah. And to continue upon that, what will happen is that obviously Biden talked about how he wanted to codify Roe v. Wade, and obviously that didn't happen. Roe v. Wade was overturned, and there's a possibility that it might happen, but again, it might not. It could be just an empty promise. It could be an empty, my glasses are all weird. Oh, no, they're not. Just my camera's weird. But yeah, it's just one of those things where a lot of the ideas that are presented there are already happening. Trans legislation, queer stuff, anything that has to do with that is even remotely away from conservatism or remotely leaning toward conservatism is very much a possibility already within the United States, especially down south and in the southern states. A lot of it is already happening. I mean, you can already see with what was happening in Oklahoma about with mandatory Bible stuff, or allowing homelessness to be criminalized and thus allowing more prison population to be served as slave labor. And God, my glasses really do look weird, but I promise that they're not crooked. It's just my camera. Uh, and they all this stuff, the least severe stuff that is on Project 2025 is still very severe. But again, it's just a ghostly part. It is a larger part of the picture. It is not an official doctrine. It's not official, like, stuff that is proposed that will happen no matter what. For all we know, Trump can come in. Now, Heritage Foundation loves Trump, and he loves them, but there's a chance that he, just so that he can be more popular with people, and that he doesn't implement certain things, or maybe he does it later on down the line, or so on. But voting and electing a Democrat only postpone that. It will only push that back, because the Heritage Foundation will never stop existing until there is a fundamental reconstruction and not fixing, but ground up refixing, or not reconstruction of our current system. And that was really what I wanted to talk about, was that, one, as scary as something like Project 2025 is, that yes, if Trump is elected, there's a big chance that that ghostly part comes in. But there is also already other stuff that is worried about, right? Democrats in Congress and in the Senate and so on and so forth bring up Project 2025 as a boogeyman. They bring it up to make it sound like something that is going to happen no matter what, if anyone. But it's not if Trump is elected, it's if any conservative is elected. Because the Heritage Foundation wants it to specifically be conservative. That's why specifically Project 25 will not happen. That exact project will not happen under a Democrat, because they want it to be a conservative. That is what they say. They want it to be a conservative. But that does not stop those ideas from being implemented in other ways through legislation or the Supreme Court or even the president or so on and so forth, and all that other stuff, right? And also, whenever it's brought up, the reason why Republicans don't bring it up is, one, again, it's not official doctrine, but two, it's to kind of call out the Democrats as saying, "Oh, you're just bringing up a boogeyman." That's not what's happening, because some of them don't want it. They think it's crazy, right? They just want to they just want to have conservatism, but not that extreme, right? And the Democrats use it to hide their own misdeeds and so on, because obviously the Democrats voted for a lot of things bad that are going on currently as well. I will also say this flat out right now. I am not a Democrat. I am not a liberal or anything like that. This is probably my most political video that might ever be made. But yeah, I'm not a liberal. I'm not a libertarian. I am not a Democrat, nor am I center. And nor am I on the right. So make of that what you will. Whatever you want to label me as. But that's there. So it doesn't really matter who we vote for this year. Shit is still going to get fucked regardless. Third party, I was thinking about voting third party. And honestly, now at this point, I don't even know if I want to vote. Because yes, voting is important. I fundamentally believe that voting is so important. It is one of the most important things to democracy in the United States, and it just in democracy in general, of having the masses have word, have their voices be heard. But the way that elections happen with presidents is that it does matter, but it also doesn't matter, because electoral colleges and so on, and population and all sorts of other things like that. Really, voting only really matters whenever it comes down to local things, right? If they really wanted one president to come into office, they will make that happen. They will. I know some people are like really like it's. I don't want to say this as like a conspiracy or like as a nut job, right? Being like, oh, they just want to rig the election, but like, you know, they can lobby in certain ways to make sure that those policies happen regardless, or so on and so forth, right? And if they want a certain president elected, they'll make sure that they get elected. Whether that means, you know, certain uh, like president, whatever the fuck, going around in speeches and so on, they will make sure that it guarantees their win. Because honestly, the scary thing before I get into everything else is that regardless of who wins, it will get worse. Now, that is not to say that there's nothing to do. At this time in American history, I think this is whenever the revolution is going to start. This is not me being like, oh, cosplay, oh, I'm going to be part of the revolution, I'm going to throw Molotov cocktails and whatever. No, I'm being absolutely serious. This is going to be a part in history where, you know, riots will start on both sides from both people, because if Trump loses, something like January 6th could happen again. It might not be in storm the Capitol, but he could be like, my fellow Americans, my true patriots, or he doesn't say anything and he loses, and then they think that the election was rigged because of how crazy the riot is, and then they just fucking go off and do all that craziness. But then there's also everyone else that wants to be part of the revolution and fix, or not even just fix, because there is no fix in the current system. The current system is working how it's intended to work. The only thing that can be done with it is destroyed and rebuilt as something new. And to those that are out there, move. I'm being serious. Move somewhere if you can, or stay safe and make sure that your community is tight. Work with your community. If you have something that you can offer to benefit each other, whether that be woodworking, metalworking, solid food, water, so on and so forth, because there's a chance that something happens that is really drastic that happens. Now it might not be, but it's good just to be prepared, not in like a apocalyptic way. Just be safe, right? Be certain of your safety. But again, with the revolution, it's just like, it's bound to happen now. It genuinely is. With the way that everything has been going on, is that there will be protests, there will be riots, there will be fighting, and so on and so forth. There will be major, it might get bloody and so on. And that'll be scary. But the thing is that if we fight hard enough, it will cause change. It will allow change to happen. And that sucks because, man, I just wanted to make YouTube videos, but I'm about that life, right? I'm not just going to sit down and take it. I'm not just going to move away. This is my world. This is my country, and so on. And even if I don't like the government, I want to make sure that the people that live here can live a safe life. So if I can fight in any way, I will do so. Front lines, whatever, like that. But even I got started myself. Okay. And that leads me into the second part of this whole thing with voting, is that it doesn't really matter, and I just don't feel right with voting for either. I vote for Biden. Oh, Project 2025, stop, big boogeyman. But then I'm supporting a guy that wants to send billions to fucking Israel to perpetuate genocide, right? He says that he'll stop attacks against minority groups, but actually nothing happens, right? It's all surface semantic and platitudes, right? But then, Trump gets elected, and then as it gets worse from there, it's immediate, right? It's bad fucking either way. All the people that are like, oh, you have to vote for Biden, or you have to vote for Trump, or anything like that, or like, oh, you have to vote for Biden to stop everything. Dude, it's going to get worse no matter what. It will not. Biden being elected does not stop homelessness from being criminalized. He is already in office right now, being able to do certain things. Now, he doesn't have all the power to do certain things, being like, oh, why don't you just do this now? Because he's the president. Well, technically now with the immunity thing, technically there are some things that you could do with it. But yeah, like with the idea of just like Biden coming in and fixing everything, it's not going to happen. And then it's like, obviously, I'm not going to vote for Trump either, because Trump. So it just comes down to one of those things where it doesn't matter who wins this time. There is no, oh, lesser of two evils. There are two people that are the same evil one way or another. The shit's going to get more fucked here at home, and it's going to get more fucked abroad, regardless of who does it first. If Biden gets elected, okay, fine. Wow, Project 2025, the boogeyman, the Republicans are pushed back for a while. But that doesn't stop the homelessness from being criminalized. That doesn't stop all the anti-trans legislation, all the anti-LGBT legislation. That doesn't stop all of the, the fossil fuels being leaked into the air, or all of the, the pipelines and all of that other stuff, and everything that is going around the world, or the genocide in Palestine, and all sorts of other stuff, right? That doesn't stop any of that. Right? And that's what you would want for a president, is if you elect them, it stops the current issue. No. Biden just postpones it by having it happen over a slower period of time. That's all that happens, right? And, yes, if you really wanted one to happen, you would want Biden to be elected instead of Trump. That would have it happen quicker. But the best case scenario, revolt. Fucking do something. Don't sit around. Just fucking I don't want to come off as like a conspiracy nut job that's going to get fucking have the FBI knocking at my door. But genuinely, go protest. Go be a part of movements. Go do something that helps your voice be heard. Right? So that there can be proper change. We can pressure these people to do what we say. Because the government is for us, not for them. This is not an oligarchy, as much as it's trying to become one. As much as democracy is dead, the spirit of it is still alive within the people. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's move on to Chevron. So Chevron is very fucking drastic and just dreadful to have been overturned because of the fact that it stops corporations from putting asbestos in your water. Was one of the best ways that I heard it be said, was that without Chevron, now corporations don't have to be regulated by a third-party source that, are smart and so on, such as the FBC or the CDA or so on, or CDC, not CDA, and so on, right? And now I'm not saying that they want to put asbestos in the water because they want to be malicious, right? It's to save money. That's all it's about, is money. But then it becomes malicious because they'll do anything to make money. Which might just be more malicious because it's malicious compliance than being outwardly malicious of doing it to be evil, right? Doing it to hurt people. And with Chevron being overturned is that it doesn't stop corporations from polluting and so on and so forth. It saves them money. And this section will be a lot shorter because it's just me explaining just how bad it is. All the current environmental issues will just become worse. They will become 10 times worse, in fact, because now what's to stop them? They don't have to go through a court that has to appeal or anything like that. I think I'm probably getting this all jumbled up, but this is the gist of it, right? It stops people from having to go to professionals that understand what's happening, and stops them from doing it. They can just do it anyway because a court's like, okay, it'll be fine. And then they go on with it, right? This, how in Palestine, the train wreck, not Palestine in Gaza, how, the leak that got in, right? Or it doesn't stop something like Flint, Michigan from happening, even worse, but 10 times more. It doesn't stop corporations from, putting their fucking factories near a waterway so that they have an easier place to dump it, right? That was the whole purpose that it was put in the 80s, was to stop this pollution stuff from happening. And it's even more ironic is because one of the person on there that overturned it is the son of one of the people who put it in place in the first place. And that is just so fucking ironic. It is tragic that that's what's happening. And again, the only way to fix this is protest. and to make noise, do something, right? I would make as much noise as possible. This is my way of making as much noise as possible, hoping that this gets to as many people as possible. I live in the suburbs, right? I can't go walk down a city street and then go to my local protest, right? Because transportation, no walkable cities, it sucks, right? Or I would be doing that. But this is my best way currently in my situation in my life that I am able to do so. And that's one of the reasons why I do YouTube, is so that I can raise money to go to good organizations that help this stuff from being stopped. Or, donations to charities or to people in general, or so on and so forth, because that's my whole thing. That's my whole goal, is I want to be able to make the world better by doing what I want to do with my life, and being free to do so. But that'll probably come in my next rant video. Okay. Next, we're going to be talking about what was it? Oh, yeah, it's the president immunity thing. So the presidential immunity thing, there's a lot of misinformation going around right now about what exactly it is. It is not that the president can do anything now, but it does teeter really close to it. One, it basically meant that Trump is now immune to anything that he did in office because of this. And it also now means that Biden can get away with a lot of stuff as long as it falls under presidential duty. Basically, the whole thing about how people are like, oh, as soon as they come out of office, we can try them for war crimes. Now they are pardoned from it legally under the law because it fell under a presidential duty. Now, my only hope is, hey, so can you have an order to kill people now? Can we get this? Can we get the ball rolling? But you get it started, right? Come on. But seriously, is that it now allows for political dissonance or so on to be legally arrested under presidential acts or presidential orders or so on and so forth. It gives the president a lot more power now. And knowing if Biden will use it or not, who knows? I know there's a bunch of memes going around right now about King Biden, but there's just it's just an entire shit show of just how bad this really, really is. And again, I don't want to fearmonger. I'm trying to be as real as possible without panicking and being like, we're fucked. The world's over. We're fucked. We're fucked. You know what? Just go get your guns. Fucking let's go. No. I'm trying to be like, we can mediate this, right? There are stuff that we can do without resorting to that. We don't have to fucking freak out. We just have to understand what's going on and use it to our advantage, right? And it's just, whew, it's crazy. It really is. And my leg is bouncing because autism. But yeah, it's wild that something like that was passed through the Supreme Court and gives immunity to the president, and it gives him now more power to do certain things as long as it falls under presidential powers and presidential God, what's the word? Responsibilities, right? So you can tell how bad that is. I was expecting this part of the video to be way longer, but all I can really say is that when the president is able to do a lot without being, without having the word of law above them, because Biden even said that no one should be allowed to be over the law, and he now says that this being overturned means that the president is above the law, which is really funny that he's being like, it's bad. No one is above the law, not even the United States president. Despite the fact that he's probably just going to use it for himself anyway. Yeah, it's crazy. It genuinely is. Other than that, let's get into my final message. Okay, here's my final message to everyone that's out there right now. that's listening, whether you support this or anything like that, stay safe out there, genuinely. It's going to be a lot bleaker from now on. It's going to get a lot worse. But we have the power to do something about it. We can protest. We can make as much noise as possible, right? We have a call to, like, action or whatever, to, like, do what we can for our communities, to help each other, to make sure each other are safe, right? Those that are able to protest in large areas should do so. Those that are able to make noise should do so. Spread the word online. People think that doing stuff online doesn't do anything, but that's how shit gets around now. We are connected through the internet, and that's how we are able to, like, get the message of anything, whether it be revolution or protest or anything like that, to make change in the world. If you want like material to read on, there's plenty out there. There's too much for me to link. There are Twitter thread after Twitter thread of good stuff, for supporting Palestine, or supporting your local community, or knowing where to vote if you're are voting for voting registration or so on, and being informed. Because I am not one of those people that is a political grifter, or just says stuff to say it. I believe in what I say. I am a wholehearted believer in change and fighting for our future, right? We do not want peace. We need justice. That is what we need in this world. We need comeuppance for what has gone for so long and has hurt so many people. We do not need more evil people in office perpetuating genocide, or perpetuating racism or bigotry or anything like that. No matter what people say of, we can't talk about what divides us, we need to be about what connects us, right? That's just a talking point about people who are just racist anyway, right? You hear it all the time, because once you actually start talking to them, they're still racist. They just want you to ignore their stuff so that you can, have peace. But like Martin Luther King Jr. said, there is no peace without justice. And that's what we need. We genuinely need true justice in the world. Not the justice that the government says or perpetuates or anything like that, but real justice. Not, So yeah, be informed, organize. God, I wish I had a local thing around me, but where I am, there is no local. And the only thing that would be close is if I were to make it, but guess what? I can't make it because I ain't got no money. So maybe I'll make an organization or something like that for people being collected if I make enough money. Or I guess maybe a better way to use it would be to bolster other organizations instead. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want, or if you're worried about anything, I'll see if I can talk to you down in the comments. I hope this doesn't end up on the wrong side of YouTube. But yeah, thank you. Stay safe, stay aware, stay informed, stay calm. Everything will eventually be okay, right? We just got to work to make sure it will be. But yeah, go. Stay safe. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Sorry that this video was so abruptly political, but in this day and age, I'm kind of forced to be this way. Bye-bye.